Welcome back, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday night. It's October 25th, 2022, and welcome into another edition of The Week That Was. As we take a look at the statisticals and my results from the picks straight up and against the spread from week number 7 in the National Football League. And at the end of the rundown, we'll update the NFL standings. And I'll unveil my week 8 power rankings. So let's jump right into week number 7, the week that was in the NFL. And we're starting off with Thursday night football and what was a high scoring affair just down the street from me at State Farm Stadium as the Arizona Cardinals defeated the New Orleans Saints by a final score of 42-34. The Cardinals came in ranked 27th in my week 7 power rankings. The Saints were number 22. All right. So looking at the offense first, the Saints ran 71 plays, 49 passes, and 22 runs, while the Cardinals ran just 58 plays, 29 passes, and 29 runs. Total yards were 494 to 326 for New Orleans. Passing yards also favored the Saints, 409 to 189. Rushing yards went to the Arizona Cardinals, 137 to 85. The Saints have 25 first downs, while the Cardinals finished with 21. And on the year, they pretty much have the same amount of first downs. The Saints have 147. The Cardinals have one more at 148. New Orleans was 6 of 13 on third down for 46.2%. On the year, they're 39 of 93 for 41.9%. The Cardinals were just 3 for 10 on third down, 30%. And for the season, 33 of 98, 33.7%. Both teams finished 1 for 1 on fourth down. So on the season, New Orleans is 2 for 4 at 50%. The Cardinals are 13 of 23 at 56.5%. The Saints had 8 penalties for 49 yards. They have 52 total for 459. The Cardinals had 4 penalties for 20 yards. They have 42 through 7 games for 368. Time of possession favors Arizona, 31 minutes, 36 seconds to 28 minutes and 24 seconds for the New Orleans Saints. The Saints defense records 40 tackles, 18 solo, 290 total tackles on the year and 136 solo. They recorded a couple sacks on Kyler Murray on Thursday night, bringing their total to 16. They had a fumble in this game. That's their 7th of the year. And 2 passes defended brings their total to 20. There were no interceptions or touchdowns by the Saints defense, so they remain with the 1 INT. The Cardinal defense finishes with 45 tackles, 26 solo. For the year, they have 293 total tackles and 131 solo. They were not able to record a sack in this game, so they remain at 11 for the season. They didn't have a fumble forced in this game either, so they stay at 8. But they did pass defend 9 passes, which brings their total to 33. And man, the defense, outside of the sacks, outside of the lack of sacks and fumbles, this defense was pretty active, especially the back end. 3 interceptions in this game, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. And those 2 pick sixes came in about a 65-second span late in the second quarter, and that turned the game around. The Cardinals defense now has 5 interceptions and 4 defensive touchdowns. All right. The closing line in this game was Arizona minus 2.5, and the over-under was 44. Now, as I said, this game was high scoring, as the Saints and Cardinals combined for 76 points. The previous 2 Thursday night contests, the Colts and Broncos in Week 5 and the Commanders and Bears in Week 6, had a combined total of, I'm trying to think here, there were 21 points in the Colts-Broncos game in Week 5 and 19 points in the Commanders-Bears game in Week 6. So you had 40 points combined in the previous 2 Thursday night games until this week, where the Saints and Cardinals combined for 76. So if you took the over, congrats. I picked the Saints to win straight up 24-20 and to cover the 2.5 points. I lost both picks. So I am 0-1 both against the spread and straight up. All right, now to the Sunday portion of the schedule. And we'll start off with the Atlanta Falcons at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Falcons were ranked number 21 in my Week 7 power rankings. The Bengals, number 10. And it's the Bengals that run away with this one. 35-17 is the final. So, the Falcons ran 42 plays, only 13 passes to 29 runs. The Bengals ran 63 plays, 42 passes, and 21 runs. The Bengals outgained the Falcons in this game big time, 537-214. Through the air, they outgained them big time as well, 459-107. But the Falcons had the edge on the ground with 107 rushing yards to only 78 for the Bengals. First downs, big advantage to Cincinnati, more than a 2-1 clip. 29 first downs for the Bengals, 13 for Atlanta. This gives the Bengals 157 first downs through 7 games, and the Falcons 136. Atlanta finished 4 for 10 on third down for 40%. They're down 34 of 77 for the year at 44.2%. With no fourth down plays, so they stay at 2 for 3 on the season. Cincinnati finished 7 for 11 on third downs for 63.6%. They are now 46 of 89 at 51.7%. So this is one of the top third down offenses in football. They went 0 for 1 on fourth down, putting them 2 for 8 for the season. Not a lot of penalties in this game, only 3 for the Falcons for 22 yards and 5 by the Bengals for only 17. On the season, Atlanta now has 30 penalties for 231 yards. Cincinnati has 34 for 233. Time of possession favors the home team. 33 minutes and 5 seconds for the Bengals. 26 minutes, 55 seconds for the Falcons. Taking a look at the defenses now. The Atlanta Falcons records 45 tackles, 18 solo. They now have 299 total tackles and 112 solo. They sacked Joe Burrow 3 times, so that gives them 10 sacks on the year. 0 forced fumbles in this game, so they stay at 4 in that category. And they have 4 passes defensed in this game, bringing them to 31. With no interceptions or touchdowns, by their defensive backfield. So the Falcons stay at 6 interceptions. The Bengals defense, 35 tackles, 19 solo. So they now have 286 total tackles and 164 solo tackles. I take that back. They have 148 solo tackles. I was reading the wrong team. They managed to sack Marcus Mariota 3 times, so they're now up to 15 sacks. They had no fumbles in this game either, so they stayed with 5. And 2 passes on the defense for the Bengals. That's 30 on the season. No interceptions or touchdowns, so Cincinnati remains with 5 INTs. Closing line was Cincinnati minus 6.5, and the over-under was 47.5. I picked Cincinnati to win 27-23, but I took the Falcons against the spread at plus 6.5. Originally plus 6 when I wrote this information down, but the line moved to plus 6.5. But either way, I lost the ATS pick. So I'm sitting at 1-1 straight up and 0-2 against the spread after the Falcons-Bengals game. Now we're going to talk about the Browns and Ravens. Cleveland ranked number 29 in my power rankings. Baltimore number 12. And for once, we can say the Baltimore Ravens did not blow a game, as they end up beating the Browns 23-20. All right. The Cleveland Browns offense ran 51 plays, 27 passes, and 24 runs. So your usual balanced attack. The Baltimore Ravens offense ran 60 plays, only 16 passes to 44 runs. The Browns did outgain the Ravens 336 to 254. Through the air, Cleveland outgained Baltimore 223 to 94, but it was the Ravens who outgained the Browns on the ground, 160 to 113. First downs favored the Browns, 18 for Cleveland, 17 for Baltimore. That gives the Browns 157 first downs through 7 weeks, and the Ravens 138. Cleveland was putrid on third down. They were 2 for 11 for 18.2%. That'll drag your average down. They're now 37 of 96 at 38.5%, 1 for 1 on fourth down, and for the season, 10 for 16 at 62.5%. The Ravens were 7 of 15 on third down for 46.7% and 35 of 83 for the year at 42.2%. And they went 2 for 2 on fourth down, putting them 4 for 8 on the year at 50%. The Browns had 6 penalties for 45 yards. Baltimore had 3 for 53. And on the season, Cleveland now has 45 flags for 357. The Ravens 36 for 292. Time of possession favors the Baltimore Ravens in this one. 34 minutes and 4 seconds versus 25 minutes and 56 seconds for Cleveland. Looking at the defenses now, the Browns recorded 48 tackles, 30 solo tackles. They now have 286 total tackles and 164 solo. They sacked Lamar Jackson 3 times. Their sack total on the season is now 14. They had 1 fumble in the game, did the defense, brings their total to 6. And 4 passes on the defense, bringing them to 32. No touchdowns or interceptions by the Cleveland defensive backfield that they say had 2 interceptions on the season with no touchdowns. The Ravens, meanwhile, had 43 tackles, 20 solo. That brings them to 305 tackles, 172 solo. They sacked Jacoby Brissett 5 times, and the Ravens will move to 20 sacks. Baltimore's defense forced 3 fumbles, which brings them up to 9 on the season. They're among the league leaders in forced fumbles. And only 1 pass defended the entire day. They're at 32 on the season, just as the Browns are. And no interceptions or touchdowns for the Ravens. They remain with 8 picks. Speaking of picks, closing line in this game was Baltimore minus 6.5, and the over-under was 47. I took Baltimore 27-20, and I picked the Ravens to cover these 6.5 points. But since Cleveland only lost by 3, they cover as the road underdog, so I lost that pick. Now I'm 0-3 ATS, but 2-1 straight up. All right, on we go to the Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys. The Lions were ranked 24th in my power rankings in week 7. The Cowboys number 6. And 6 just so happens to be the number of points the Cowboys defense allowed, as Dallas beats Detroit by a final of 24-6. I mean, but give the Lions credit. They stayed in it until about the 4th quarter when the Cowboys pulled away. Okay. Detroit ran 51 offensive plays, 26 passes, 25 runs. Dallas ran 57 plays, 25 passes, and 32 runs. Total yards, a slight edge to the Cowboys, 330 to 312. Passing yards, slight edge to the Lions, 195 to 191. And rushing yards favored the Dallas Cowboys on this day, 139 to 117. As did first downs. The Cowboys had 21. The Lions had 18. Through 6 games now has 125 first downs, while Dallas through 7 games has 121. Both teams finished 3 for 9 on third down, both 33.3%. For the season, the Lions are 27 of 74, 36.5%, while the Cowboys are 28 of 87 for 32.2%. And neither team had a fourth down play, so the Lions stay 8 of 18 at 44.4%, and the Cowboys 4 for 8 for 50%. There were a lot of penalties on both sides. Detroit had 8 flags for 59 yards, 38 total for 329. Dallas had 7 penalties for 55 yards. They now have 49 total flags for 377. Time of possession favors Detroit. 31 minutes, 14 seconds for the Lions to 28 minutes and 46 seconds for the Cowboys. The Lions defense had 51 tackles, 36 solo tackles. They now have 298 total tackles, 179 solo. They wound up sacking Dak Prescott twice. They now have 9 sacks on the season, and that's tied for the fewest in the NFL. They forced 3 fumbles in this game. That brings their total to 5. Do the math on how many fumbles the Lions had in their first 6 games, or rather their first 5 games, because they were off last week. They had 1 pass defended in this game, so that's 14 on the season, and that's going to be the second lowest total in the NFL. And no interceptions or touchdowns by Detroit's defense, so they remain with 2 INTs. The Cowboys defense at 43 tackles, 25 solo. They now have 315 total tackles, 182 solo. They sacked Jared Goff 5 times. So the Cowboys up their NFL leading sack lead to 29. Let me try that again. The Cowboys up their leading sack total to 29. There we go. That sounds a lot better. Like the Lions, the Cowboys also forced 3 fumbles in this game. That brings them to 7. And they had 4 passes defensed, bringing their season total to 25. The Cowboys added 2 interceptions to their total, which is now 6 with 1 defensive touchdown. Closing line is Dallas minus 6.5, and the over-under was 49.5. And I obviously picked the Cowboys to win 31-21 and to cover the 7 points, which was then reduced to 6.5. But Dallas does get the cover and then some, winning by 18. Okay, the slumping Green Bay Packers trying to snap a 3-game losing streak headed to the nation's capital to face Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders. Of course, Heineke is in at quarterback, where the injured Carson Wentz dealing with a broken finger on his throwing hand. Well, the struggle is real, and it continues for the Pack as they fall to the Commanders in DC 23-21. So that's now 4 losses in a row for Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers. They ran 47 offensive plays, 35 passes, and only 12 runs, while the Commanders ran 71 plays, 33 passes, and 38 runs. And Washington outgained Green Bay in all 3 yards categories. Total yards were 364 to 232. Passing yards were 198 to 194. And rushing yards were 166 to 38, all in favor of Washington. First downs are also in favor of the Commanders, 22-16. The Packers now have 138 first downs through 7 weeks, while the Commanders are just 1 below them at 137. Here's a big reason why Green Bay lost. They got nothing going on third down. They went 0 for 6 on third down on Sunday. That puts them at, I can't read that, 28 for 79 for 35.4%. Just a second here. There we go. Got a little bit more light in here. Washington, on the other hand, went 7 of 16 for 43.8%. They are now 35 of 95 for 36.8%. Green Bay was 0 for 1 on fourth down. That makes them 2 for 9 on the season. That's 22.2%. Washington did not have a fourth down play, so they stay 2 for 8 on the year. So neither team not that good overall on fourth down. All right. And the flags were flying a lot in this one. 9 penalties for the Packers for 69 yards. They now have 40 for 388. Washington had 7 penalties for 54 yards. They now have 46 total for 425. Time of possession is 37 minutes and 7 seconds for the Commanders, 22 minutes, 53 seconds for the Packers. And so the Washington Commanders, for the first time in 2022, are ball hawks. And for those new to the channel, not familiar with the ball hawks, they are teams that possess the ball in a football game for at least 35 minutes. Doesn't matter if they win or lose. Turning our attention now to the defenses. The Packers, 39 tackles with no solo tackles. So they're at 295 total tackles, 145 solo. They did get the Taylor Heineke once, so that's 1 sack, 15 on the season. No fumbles in the game for the Packers defense, so they stay at 3. 6 passes defense brings them to 18. And they had a pick 6 in this game. So this gives them 2 interceptions and a touchdown. As for the Washington Commanders, they had 22 tackles and no solo tackles. Can't talk. They now have 268 total tackles and 115 solo. They were not able to sack Aaron Rodgers, however, so they stay at 19 sacks through 7 games. They didn't force a fumble either, so they remain at 2. And that is the second fewest total in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills haven't forced a fumble yet in 6 games played. So they're the only team without a fumble. Well, the only defense anyway. Washington had 3 passes defended, bringing their total to 30. They had no interceptions or touchdowns, so they stay at 2 INTs on the season. Closing line was Green Bay -4, and the over-under was 41. I, like most everyone else, took the Packers to win 24-16 and to cover the 5-point spread, which then dropped to 4. But Washington won both straight up and against the spread, so I took the L in both picks. So now I'm 3-2 straight up for the week and 1-4 against the spread, which is not good. All right. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. These 2 teams just played in Indy just 3 weeks ago. Oh, by the way, in the power rankings, Green Bay was ranked number 11, while Washington was number 28. In this rematch with the Colts and Titans, Indy came in at number 17, while Tennessee was number 18. And it's the Titans who get the season sweep on the Colts as they win this one 19-10. Indianapolis ran 61 plays on offense, 44 passes, and 17 runs. Tennessee ran 56 passes, or rather 56 plays, 20 passes, and 36 runs. The Colts outgained the Titans overall 292-254. Through the air, they're nearly 2-1 in passing yards, 227-116. But it was Tennessee that dominated Indy on the ground, 138-65. First downs favored the Colts, 17-16. Indy now has 147 total first downs versus just 100 for the Tennessee Titans. And neither team really not all that great on third down. The Colts were 4 for 13 for 38.5%. On the season, 39 of 97 for 40.2. Tennessee was 5 of 12 on third down for 41.7%. On the year, they're now 26 of 71 for 36.6%. Indianapolis converted its only fourth down play of the day. They are now 2 of 7 on the year. And the Titans had no fourth down play, so they stay at 2 for 3. Looking at all the games in the NFL, this game had the fewest penalties, only 6 in total. 4 penalties for the Colts at 28 yards, 42 total for the year at 347, and only 2 flags for the Tennessee Titans at 15 yards. They now have 39 penalties for 346. Time of possession is 31 minutes, 33 seconds for the Titans, 28 minutes, and 27 seconds for the Colts. The Indianapolis defense records 44 tackles, 19 solo. They're up to 319 total tackles and 165 solo, or rather 163 solo. They sacked Ryan Tannehill twice, bringing their sack total on the season to 17. No fumbles by the Colt defense. They have 4 on the year. 3 passes defensed brings their total to 21, with no interceptions or touchdowns. So Indy stays with 3 INTs through 7 games. For the Tennessee Titans, they have 52 tackles, 26 solo. They now have 273 total tackles through 7 games and 137 solo. All right, they sacked Colts quarterbacks 3 times. So now the Titans have 16 on the year. They forced their 7th fumble of the season, and they pass defensed 5 passes, bringing them to 26. They added 2 more interceptions and their first offensive touchdown on the season. So they have that 1 defensive touchdown to go along with now 6 interceptions. Oh, the big news out of this game was Matt Ryan was pulled in this game and replaced by Sam Ehlinger, who will be the starter next week for the Indianapolis Colts. And they didn't give any details whether or not the move was injury related or not. Okay. Oh, and point spreads and over-unders are courtesy of the Sports Alert app. And I can tell you in this game, the closing line was Tennessee minus 2.5, and the over-under was 43. I picked the Titans to win 26-23 and to cover the 2 points, which then went to 2.5 points. So I won both the straight up and ATS picks. So now I'm 4-2 straight up, 2-4 against the spread. Okay, on now to the 5-1 New York Football Giants, the G-Men, venturing down to Jacksonville to face Trevor Lawrence and the slumping Jaguars, who are in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. New York came in number 4 in my Week 7 power rankings. Jacksonville was number 25. And the Giants got a big goal line stand at the end to defeat the Jags by a final of 23-17. The Giants ran 70 offensive plays, 30 passes, and 40 rushes, while Jacksonville ran 66 plays, 44 passes, 22 runs. And both teams were well over 400 yards in this game. 452 for Jacksonville, 436 for New York. Passing yards favored Jacksonville, 310 to 200, but it was the Giants who had the big edge and rushing yards in this game. 236 for the Giants to 142 for the Jags. So both teams ran the ball pretty well. New York at a clip of 5.9 yards per carry. Jacksonville at about 6.5 yards per carry. Each team had 27 first downs. So now the Jaguars have 157 first downs through 7 games. They have as many as the Browns and the Bengals. And 149 for the Giants. New York hit half of their third down conversion, 6 out of 12 for 50%. They're now 36 of 90 on the season for 40%. And 0 for 1 on fourth down. That makes them 2 for 5 on the year, which is also 40%. Jacksonville was 6 of 13 on third downs for 46.2%. And 2 for 4 on fourth down for 50%. For the season, the Jaguars offense, 36 of 86 on third downs for 41.9. 7 of 17 on fourth down for 41.2. Okay. Now this game had the most penalties of any game this week. There were 21. 8 for the New York Giants for 67 yards. And 13 for Jacksonville for 81 yards. So in terms of number of flags, the Jaguars were the most penalized team in the NFL in Week 7. New York now has 48 penalties for 374 yards. Jacksonville has 45 for 330. Time of possession favors the Giants. 34 minutes, 10 seconds versus 25 minutes, 50 seconds for Jacksonville. The Giants defense records 36 tackles, 17 solo. So they're now at 277 and 119. They were not able to sack Trevor Lawrence in this game. I can't talk. They were not able to sack Trevor Lawrence in this game. So they stay at 12 sacks on the season. All right. They forced another fumble this week. That's number 11. And that pulls them into the league lead in that category. And 6 more passes defense for the New York Giants. That's 30 for the year. And no interceptions or touchdowns. They still have the 1 INT from last week. As for the Jaguars defense, 44 tackles, 12 solo. They now have 301 solo or 301 total tackles and 127 solo. They did sack Daniel Jones once, so that brings their sack total to 11. No fumbles for the Jacksonville defense. They stay at 4. Although the Jaguars leading the NFL in passes defense added 8 more to their total, which brings them up to a league high 48 through 7 games. So that's nearly 7 per game if you're keeping score. The Jaguar defense also had no interceptions or touchdowns in this game, so they remain with 7 INTs and 1 touchdown. Closing line in this game is Jacksonville minus 3.5, and the over-under was 44. I picked the Giants to win this game 28-17 and to cover the 3 points, which jumped to 3.5 as the road underdog, and they did it once again. And just think, the New York Giants, all 7 of their games have been decided by 1 score, and they only lost once all year. If you're joining me late, you're watching the week that was as I run down the statistical numbers from week 7 in the National Football League. And coming up later, an updated look at the NFL standings after week 7, plus my week 8 power rankings. So make sure you stick around. And if you're new, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell every time I post a new vid. And let's get right back into week number 7 of the week that was, as we are halfway home. Our next game is the final of the early Sunday afternoon contest. And this one was a bit of a surprise, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ranked number 7 in my week 7 power rankings, visited the Carolina Panthers, ranked number 32. And it was the Panthers who won this game, 21-3. So I'm sensing there's some trouble brewing down in Central Florida with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, the Bucs offense ran 65 plays, 49 passes, 16 runs. The Panthers ran 49 plays, 22 passes, and 27 runs. All right, Carolina outgained Tampa Bay 343-322. The Panthers averaged 7 yards per offensive play. The Buccaneers were just below 5 yards per offensive play. Passing yards favored the Bucs, 276-170. Rushing yards favored Carolina, 173 for the Panthers and 46 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First downs also favored the visitors, 17 first downs for Tampa Bay, 14 for Carolina. And on the season, 140 for the Tampa Bay Bucs, 93 for the Carolina Panthers. Both teams were terrible on third down, especially Tampa Bay, 2 for 12 on third down at 16.7%. That's not going to cut it if you want to win in this league. And so far this year, they are 31 of 94 for 35.1%, which is really not a good figure. The Panthers, not much better, 4 of 12 on third down for 33.3%. And on the season, just 21 of 84 for 25%. So they remain the worst third down offense in the league. The Bucs went 1 for 3 on fourth down at 33.3%. On the season, 4 for 8. No fourth down plays for the Panthers. They stay 5 of 10 for 50%. Tampa finishes with 4 penalties for 30 yards. They have 40 total for 323. The Panthers only had 3 penalties the entire game for 15 yards. And they have 34 total for 328. Time of possession, a slight advantage to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 30 minutes, 36 seconds to 29 minutes and 24 seconds for the Panthers. Tampa's defense records 30 tackles, only 6 solo. They now have 292 tackles, 127 solo. They sacked P.J. Walker once. Their sack total is now 22. No fumbles in the game, that's 8. And only 1 pass defense in the game, that's number 23. With no interceptions or touchdowns, the Bucs remain with 6 interceptions and 1 score. As for the Panthers, they record 47 tackles, 27 solo. Brings their respective totals to 306 and 117. They sacked Tom Brady once. That brings their sack total to 10. And no fumbles in this game for the Panthers either. So they stay at 3. 2 passes defensed. That brings their total to 25. And like Tampa Bay, Carolina had no interceptions or touchdowns from their defense. But they have 4 total interceptions and 3 touchdowns. Okay, back now to the Sports Alerts app. where I can tell you that the closing line in this game was Tampa Bay minus 13. 13. And the over-under was 38. And much like everyone else, I took the Buccaneers to win this game 27-14. And I had them covering what was an 11-point spread, which then jumped to 13, which would have been a push in my case. So I ended up taking the loss both ways. So now I'm 5-3 straight up, 3-5 ATS. So those are the early games from Sunday. Now we're going to jump into the late afternoon games. Starting off with the Houston Texans at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Texans were number 30 in my Week 7 power rankings, while the Raiders were number 19. And it was Vegas who got a big but it was Vegas with a big fourth quarter to put this one away, going away 38-20. Houston ran 64 offensive plays with 41 passes and 23 runs. And the 54 offensive plays were split down the middle for Las Vegas. 27 passes, 27 runs. Total yards were a slight advantage to the Houston Texans, 404-400. So this is the second game this week in which both offenses recorded at least 400 yards. Passing yards favored Houston, 296-236. Rush yards favored Vegas, 164-108. First downs also favored the Raiders. They had 25 versus the Texans 21. And on the year, 130 total first downs for the Las Vegas Raiders, 104 for Houston. The Texans both teams were very good on third downs. Houston in particular, they were 9 for 15 for 60%. And on the year, they are 28 of 80. Which is 35%. And the Raiders were 4 for 9 for 44.4%. And on the season, 28 of 69 and 40.6% through 6 games. The Texans finished 1 for 2 on fourth down, 50%. On the season, 3 for 8. And Vegas, they're a fourth down making machine. They converted their only fourth down play, and on the season, they are now 6 of 8 for 75%. So this is now the number 1 fourth down converting offense in the National Football League. In the National Football League after 7 games. The Texans had 3 penalties for 14 yards. They now have 33 for 265. Vegas had 5 penalties for 44 yards and 39 total for 311. The Raiders won the time of possession battle, 30 minutes and 43 seconds, versus Houston's 29 minutes and 17 seconds. Jumping to the defenses, Houston had 43 tackles, 32 solo, now 284 total tackles. Make that 289 total tackles and 146 solo. Texans defense sacked Derek Carr once. That brings their total to 13. No fumbles in this game for the Houston defense. They stay at 3. 1 pass defense in the game. That's 31. No interceptions or touchdowns, so they remain with 6 INTs. The Raider defense had 42 tackles, 13 solo, so now 259 tackles and 115 solo. They were able to sack Davis Mills once. That's their 9th of the year, and that ties the Lions for the fewest in the NFL. All right. No fumbles from the Vegas defense either. They stay at 3 as well. And 3 passes defensed in the game. That's 19 on the season. And we had a pick 6 in this game by the Raiders. So now they have 3 interceptions, and 2 defensive touchdowns. All right. So let's take a look at the Texans and Raiders. Closing line was Vegas -7. Over under was 46. Well, Vegas nearly covered that point total themselves with the 38 points. And I took the Raiders to win this game 24-14. And I got them covering the 7 points, which they do so with ease, winning by 18. So now that makes me 6-3 straight up, 4-5 ATS. Our next game is the New York Football Jets at the Denver Broncos. All right, the Jets came in number 15 in my Week 7 power rankings. Denver number 20. And the hits just keep on coming for the Denver Broncos as they lose yet again with their lack of offense, falling to the Jets 16-9. And the win did come at a price for New York. Running back Breece Hall is lost for the season after he suffered an injury. But they quickly filled the gap as former Jaguar running back James Robinson was acquired in a trade by the Jets. No word on whether he's going to start this week against the Patriots. We'll keep watching for that development over the coming days. All right, the Jets ran 50 offensive plays, 26 passes, 24 runs. As for the Broncos, they ran 74 plays, and that's the most plays run by any team across any game in the NFL this week. 46 passes and 28 runs. Total yards were 324, 260 in favor of the Denver Broncos. They also had the edge in passing yards, 219-105. Rushing yards favored the Jets, 155-105. First downs, a 2-1 clip to Denver, 21-10. So the Jets, once again, winning with just 10 first downs. And this is the second team to pull that off. Win with just 10 first downs. The Cowboys did it earlier this year. Both teams not very good on third down at all. The Jets were 3 for 14, 21.4% on the season, 32 of 98 for 32.7. Denver was 5 of 16, 31.3%. And for the year, they are 31 for 102 for 30.4%. No fourth down plays for New York. They stay at 5 for 10 for the season. 3 fourth down plays for the Broncos. They converted just 1 for 33.3%. They are now 4 for 9 on the season, 44.4%. New York finishes with 11 penalties for 85 yards. They now have 48 for 526. And the Denver Broncos, the most penalized team in the NFL in terms of number of penalties, added 4 more to their total for 34 yards. So now they have a league-high 58 penalties for 520 yards. Time of possession was 32 minutes, 23 seconds for Denver, 27 minutes, 37 seconds for New York. On the defensive side of the ball, the Jets had 44 tackles, 25 solo. Now 293 tackles, 124 solo. 1 sack on Broncos backup Mark Rippon gives them 15 on the season. No fumbles, that total remains the same at 5. And 9 more passes defended, that brings their total to 39. They added another interception to their total, which is now 8 with 1 defensive touchdown. As for the Broncos, 32 tackles, 8 solo. 296 total, 122 solo. They had 1 sack on Zach Wilson. That's their 21st of the year. No fumbles in this game, so they stay at 11. One of now 4 teams that lead the league in forced fumbles. 1 pass defense the entire game. That's their 30th. No interceptions or touchdowns. They stay at 3 INTs. Closing line was New York -2, and the over-under was 37. I took the Jets, thank God, 27-13, and I had them covering as a pick 'em, but then the point spread went into their favor by 2 points. So hey, I'll take it. So now I'm 7-3 straight up, and back to 500 against the spread at 5-5. Now to America's game of the week, the Kansas City Chiefs at the San Francisco 49ers. This was the rematch of Super Bowl 54. And both teams were ranked in my top 10 in the Week 7 power rankings. The Chiefs were number 3. The 49ers were number 8. Well, it was a close game for a while, but then the Chiefs started to pull away in the fourth quarter in particularly, and they ended up winning this one 44-23. The Chiefs ran 57 offensive plays, 36 passes, 21 runs. Niners 67 plays, 46 passes, and 21 runs. And this is the third game this week where both offenses put up at least 400 yards. Total yards were 529 to 444 for Kansas City. And both had a ton of passing yards, which also favored the Chiefs. 417 to 343. Rush yards also favored KC, 112 to 101. First down, slight advantage to San Francisco, 25 to 24. So now 136 total first downs for the Niners, and a league-leading 171 for the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams were stellar on third down. The Chiefs were 6 for 9 at 66.7%. On the season, 41 of 79, 51.9%. The Niners were 8 for 14 for 57.1%. And for the year, 38 of 88 for 43.2%. Neither team had a fourth down play in this game. So the Chiefs stay at 3 for 5, the Niners at 2 for 7. And both teams got hit hard with the laundry. 8 penalties for Kansas City for 84 yards. They now have 37 for 370 yards. Do the math, that's 10 yards a penalty. San Francisco had 48 they have 48 penalties after adding 10 more for 80 yards. They now have 48 penalties for 350. Time of possession favors the home team. 33 minutes and 45 seconds for San Francisco, 26 minutes, 15 seconds for Kansas City. Jumping to the defenses, the Chiefs record 47 tackles and 20 solo. They now have 310 tackles and 147 solo. And listen to this. They sacked Jimmy Garoppolo, namely, 5 times. So now they're up to 19 sacks on the season, the Chiefs defense are. They forced the defense's 7th fumble of the year. They added 8 more passes defended. bringing their total to 32. And they added 2 more interceptions on top of that. So they are now at 3 interceptions with 1 defensive touchdown. So yeah, easy to say, this Kansas City defense was pretty doggone busy on Sunday. Niners, not so much. 40 tackles, 22 solo. They have 296 total tackles, 136 solo. Only 1 sack on Patrick Mahomes. That's their 25th of the year, which would right now put them second in the league in total sacks. All right, no fumbles for the Niner defense. That's 5 on the year still. 4 passes defensed. They're up to 29. They added 1 more interception, which brings their total to 6 with 2 defensive touchdowns. Closing line was a pick'em, and the over-under was 48. I took the Niners as my upset of the week, 28-26, and I had them covering 2.5 points. So I will take the L's in both. 7-4 straight up and 5-6 against the spread. All right, the final Sunday afternoon game had the Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Chargers. All right, the Seahawks were ranked number 26 in my Week 7 power rankings. The Chargers, meanwhile, were number 14. The Seahawks got out to a quick 14-0 lead and really never looked back as they ended up winning in LA 37-23. Dare I say this Seahawks offense is legit. All right, Seattle ran 61 plays, 27 passes, 34 runs. The Chargers, 66 plays, 51 passes, and 15 runs. Okay, total yards favored the Seahawks, 404-329. Passing yards favored the Chargers, 276-190. Rush yards, big advantage to Seattle. This is more than a 4-1 clip in terms of rushing yards, 214-53. First downs favored Seattle, 24-21. Seahawks now have 141 first downs. The Chargers 148. Seattle was pretty good on third downs, 5 of 9, 55.6%. For the season, 36 of 79, 45.6%. No fourth down plays. They stayed 2 of 6. The Chargers were 5 of 15 on third down, 33.3%. Now 43 of 106 for 40.6%. And 1 for 3 on fourth downs for 33.3%. And on the season, 7 of 17 for 41.2%. Both teams were penalized 7 times. The Seahawks had 68 yards on their 7 penalties. The Chargers had 70 on their 7 penalties. On the year, Seattle now has 57 flags for 503. And the Chargers have 41 for 337. Time of possession favors Seattle, 33 minutes, 57 seconds to 26 minutes and 3 seconds for the LA Chargers. As far as defense is concerned, the Seahawks had 49 tackles, 37 solo. They're now at 341 tackles and 169 solo. Give me just a second here. Yeah. Okay. The Seahawks sacked Justin Herbert 3 times. They're up to 17 on the year. They had 2 fumbles in this game. That's numbers 10 and 11. Put them into a 4-way tie for the league lead. And 9 passes defense. That's 29 on the year. And their 5th interception to go along with a defensive touchdown during 2022 for the Seattle Seahawks defense. For the Chargers, 52 tackles, 39 solo. Now 296 total and 165 solo. They sacked Geno Smith twice. They're up to 17 sacks as the Seahawks are. No fumbles for the Chargers defense. That's 5 on the season. 5 passes defended. That brings them up to 28. And one more interception gives them 7 on the year with no defensive scores. Closing line was LA minus 4.5, and the over-under was 51. And this game did finish over at 60 points. I picked the Chargers to win 31-27, so I'd take the loss straight up. But I picked Seattle to cover the 4.5 point spread, and they wound up winning by 14 points. So that's a win. So now I'm 7-5 straight up, 6-6 against the spread. Okay, now we made it to Sunday Night Football with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Miami Dolphins. Now the Dolphins did get Tua Tagovailoa back after he missed the last 3 weeks due to concussion symptoms. And it was a pretty big night down at Hard Rock Stadium as the team celebrated the 50th anniversary of the undefeated 1972 Dolphins, coached by the legendary Don Shula, of course. And it's the home team that gets her done tonight or Sunday night as the Finns win 16-10. Pittsburgh ran 67 plays, 44 passes, 23 runs. The Dolphins 62 plays, 35 rushes, or rather 35 passes and 27 runs. And looking at the power rankings, the Steelers were ranked number 23. The Dolphins were ranked number 16. All right. Total yards were 372 to 341 in favor of the Dolphins. Passing yards also favored the Dolphins slightly, 261 to 246. And rush yards also favored the Dolphins, 111 to 95. First downs, however, that went in favor of the Steelers. They had 19 first downs versus just 17 for Miami. For the year, the Dolphins have 139, the Steelers 126. Both teams were 4 for 14 on 28 at 28.6% on third down. Steelers are now 35 of 93, 37.6%. Dolphins 30 of 82, 36.6%. Pittsburgh was the perfect 2 for 2 on fourth down. So they're now 4 for 7 on the year at 57.1%. Dolphins 0 for 1 and 4 for 9 on the year, 44.4%. Steelers had 5 penalties for 40 yards, 42 total for 298. Dolphins had 5 penalties for 30 yards and 48 total for 361. Time of possession favors Pittsburgh, 33 minutes, 16 seconds to 26 minutes and 44 seconds for the Miami Dolphins. The Steelers defense, 41 tackles, 18 solo. They now have 318 total tackles and 146 solo tackles. 0 sacks on Tua. That leaves their sack count at 12. No fumbles by the defense. That keeps their number at 11. 5 passes defended. That's 39 on the year. 0 interceptions, 0 touchdowns by the defense. So they stay with 5 INTs. Or rather 8 INTs with 1 touchdown. As for the Dolphins, 53 tackles, 23 solo. They now have 296 total tackles, 124 solo. They sacked Kenny Pickett twice, bringing their sack count to 14. No fumbles from their defense either. They stay at 5. 4 passes defensed brings their total to 30. And how about 3 interceptions by this Dolphin defense? They had 1 interception through 6 games. They had 3 on Sunday night. So now they're up to 4 with no defensive scores. Closing line was Miami minus 7.5, and the over-under was 44. I took the Dolphins to win this one, 27-14. So I got the straight-up pick right. I did pick Miami to cover the 7 points, which jumped to 7.5. But Pittsburgh loses by just 6, so they get the cover as the road underdog. And so that makes my records 8-5 straight up and 6-7 against the spread. And finally, we come to Monday Night Football with the Chicago Bears visiting the New England Patriots. The Bears, they're at the bottom of the pecking order in my power rankings at number 31. The Patriots towards the middle at number 13. But the team at number 31 sure didn't play like they were number 31, as Chicago thoroughly dominated New England in Foxborough 33-14. The Bears ran 66 offensive plays, 21 passes, and 45 runs. The Patriots ran 47 offensive plays, 28 passes, and 19 runs. Total yards were 390 to 260. Advantage Bears. Passing yards 190 to 147 to New England. Rushing yards 243 to 70 for Chicago. The Bears doubled out the Patriots in the first down department, 24-12. They now have 117 first downs. The Patriots, through 7 games, have 128. And both teams were pretty good on third downs, especially Chicago, 11 of 18 for 61.1%. For the season, they are now 42 of 93 for 45.2%. Patriots, 5 for 10 on third down, 50%, and 33 of 80 on the year for 41.3%. Both teams on fourth down were 0 for 1. So that puts the Bears at 3 of 9 and the Patriots 1 of 4. 4 penalties both ways for the Bears and Patriots. 33 yards for Chicago on their 4 flags. 30 yards for New England on their 4 flags. The Bears have 35 total flags for 288 yards. And the Patriots had 42 for 329. Time of possession, 37 minutes and 14 seconds versus 22 minutes and 46 seconds for the Patriots. And that makes the Chicago Bears the ball hawks of the week for week number 7, as they possess the ball longer than any team across the 14 games in week 7. Congratulations to the Chicago Bears. All right, let's talk about their defense now, which recorded 36 tackles, 23 solo, now 303 tackles and 129 solo. They had 1 sack in the game, and I think that sack was on Mac Jones. I'll have to look back at the statistics and find out. Anyway, that's their 12th sack of the year. No fumbles by the defense, so they stay at 8. 7 passes defended by Chicago's D. That's 26 on the year. And they added 3 interceptions. which brings their total to 8 with no defensive touchdowns. As for the Patriots, who played sloppy defense all night, 51 tackles, only 9 solo tackles. They're up to 295 and 114 in those departments. They were able to sack Justin Fields 4 times, which gives New England 20 sacks on the year. They forced 2 fumbles in the game, so that brings their total to 8, same as the Bears, same as the Buccaneers, and same as the Cardinals. 4 passes defended by the Patriots, that's 25 on the year, and they added another interception, their 7th of the season, with 1 defensive touchdown. All right. Closing line was New England minus 8.5, and the over-under was 40. I picked the Patriots to win 28-13, lose the straight-up pick. I picked New England to cover the 4-point spread, which jumped exponentially to 8.5. They end up losing by 19. So Chicago wins and covers the spread, and I take the loss there. So for the week, I went 8-6 straight up, and 6-8 against the spread. So that means I am now. I can tell you my straight up record. I don't know my ATS record off the top, but my straight up record is now 67, 40, and 1. 67, 40, and 1. So I'm hitting 62.5% of my picks. Okay, so that's the rundown. Now, let's take a look at the updated NFL standings as we put week 7 to bed. And we'll start in the AFC North, as the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals are still tied at 4-3. The division tiebreaker goes to Baltimore. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers are both 2-5, and the Browns are riding a 4-game losing streak. All right, in the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills are still on top at 5-1. They're coming out the bye weekend, riding a 3-game win streak. Then you got the New York Jets, one of the hottest teams in football, winners of 4 straight. They're in second place at 5-2. The Miami Dolphins sit in third with a 4-3 record. And in last place, the New England Patriots at 3-4. The Tennessee Titans are on top in the AFC South at 4-2, and they're riding a 4-game win streak as well. The Indianapolis Colts are at 3-1, followed by the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-5, and the Houston Texans at 1-4-1. Jacksonville is on a 4-game losing streak. And in the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs are on top of that division by themselves at 5-2. The LA Chargers are second at 4-3. The Las Vegas Raiders are 2-4, and the Denver Broncos are 2-5, also riding a 4-game losing streak. So just think, the Broncos and Jaguars play next week in London. One of these teams will end their losing streak. All right. Over in the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings have an even bigger lead in the NFC North, even though they didn't play this week. They're still 5-1. The Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears are tied for second, both 3-4. And the division tie would go to Green Bay from their earlier matchup. And the Detroit Lions are sitting in the basement at 1-5. And I think now they have the league's worst record. They do. The Philadelphia Eagles, who also didn't play this week, they're 6-0 still. New York Giants win again. They're 6-1. That's 4 straight. Dallas Cowboys back in the win column. They're 5-2. And in the basement, the Washington Commanders at 3-4. And all of a sudden, back-to-back wins for Ron Rivera's team. Then you got the putrid NFC South, where both the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Atlanta Falcons are tied for the lead at 3-4. Yes, you heard me, 3-4. And the Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints, both only a game back at 2-5. And out in the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks are on top. Yes, you heard right, at 4-3. The defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams are second at 3-3. And tied in the basement are both the San Francisco 49ers and Arizona Cardinals at 3-4. And before we wrap things up, here are my Week 8 power rankings. Going from bottom to the top. From the bottom to the top. Number 32 is the Houston Texans, down from 30. Number 31, is the Carolina Panthers, up from 31 or up from 32. Number 30 is the Cleveland Browns, down from 29. Number 29 is the Chicago Bears, up from 31. Number 28 is the Detroit Lions, down from 24. At 27 is the Jacksonville Jaguars, down from 25. 26 is the New Orleans Saints, down from 22. 25 is the Denver Broncos, down from 20. 24 is the Washington Commanders, up from 28. Pittsburgh Steelers at number 23, unchanged. The Atlanta Falcons at 22, down from 21. This week's 21 is the Arizona I'm thinking hockey. I almost said Coyotes. The Arizona Cardinals are at number 21. They're up from 27. Number 20 is the Indianapolis Colts, down from 17. Number 19 and my biggest riser in the power rankings, the Seattle Seahawks, up from 26. So that's a 7-point jump. Number 18 is the LA Chargers, down from 14. 17 is the Green Bay Packers, down from 11. And I think that's my biggest drop this week. Yeah, it's my biggest drop. They lost 6 spots. Number 16 is the New England Patriots, down from 13. 15 is the Las Vegas Raiders, up from 19. 14 is the Miami Dolphins, up from 16. 13 is the Tennessee Titans, up from 18. 12 is the New York Football Jets, up from 15. Number 11, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, down from 7. I should have dropped them further, to be honest. Number 10 is the Baltimore Ravens, up from 12. The Los Angeles Rams and San Francisco 49ers switch spots. The 49ers are down from number 8 to number 9, while the defending Super Bowl champions are up from number 9 to number 8. Number 7 is the Cincinnati Bengals, up from 10. And my top 6 is the same as last week. Dallas Cowboys at number 6. Minnesota Vikings at number 5. New York Giants at number 4. Kansas City Chiefs at number 3. Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. And the Buffalo Bills at number 1. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it for week number 7 of the week that was in the National Football League. plus the updated NFL standings and my Week 8 power rankings. We will be back with the Week 8 recap next Tuesday. And I will be back either later tonight or early tomorrow morning with the Week 9 college football schedule and the announcers for each game. I'll probably do it tonight since it won't take a lot of time. And then I will be making my picks for Week 8 in the NFL either Wednesday or Thursday. All depends. I'm probably going to do it on Wednesday night, possibly, so watch out for that. Plus, I'll also outline the maps for the Sunday afternoon games and tell you the announcers for each NFL game in week number 8. So that's coming either tomorrow or Thursdays. So either way, watch out for it. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell and get notified every time I post a new video. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.